Sanjay? Sanjay?
Yes, sir. Any?
Sanjay, can you get?
Yes, Shaji.
Please start. No, it's 11. Sanjay, can you start?
Hello and very good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to everyone joined in this for the session from various parts of the world. I do hope and wish that everyone is doing fine and keeping healthy and safe during these critical times of COVID-19. My name is Robbie Matthew, and I am the Regional Sales Manager for EBSCO India. We thank you for taking out time this morning to join us for this 8th national webinar hosted by EBSCO India. The title of today's webinar is the Modern Open Source Library Services Platform built to support engineering workflows. And our speaker today is Mr. Neil Block. It's in fact a pleasure for having Neil Block to have this webinar to be presented up. Neil Block is serving as the Vice President for Global Open Source Innovation at EBSCO. He has been a part of the FOLIO community since its inception, worked with libraries and partners worldwide to adopt the FOLIO Open Source Library Services platform. Neil has 20 plus years of experience in the library system marketplace with innovative interfaces, serving in senior executive roles, including being the president. It's interesting to see that Neil is also a librarian, has worked in academic and special libraries, and has an MLIS from University of the US. It's a pleasure that Neil is there with us today, and we welcome you to the session, Mr. Neil, and over to you for starting the session. Thank you so much. It's also an important note for the audience that please have all your questions shared to the chat box. We would be addressing these questions at the end of the session. Over to you, Neil.
Thank you very much. I'm delighted to be here today, and thank you for your attendance to learn a little bit about FOLIO. And we're going to talk about what is FOLIO, what does a new library automation system mean to the marketplace at large. FOLIO stands for the future of libraries is open. And we began this project about 4.5 years ago. And when we did, we had this idea to build an open source library system. And as we know, there are successful open source projects in library automation. Specifically, the Koha system is very well used. But we thought it might be time to start a new community built on innovation. The Koha library system is wonderful, but it also has been in use for more than 15 years. So we thought there might be a time to build a new system from the ground up. And our core ideas about FOLIO are to build a system with community. And this has to do with some research that we did before we even began the project. we tried to look at successful open source projects, not only in libraries, but out in the world at large. And we tried to look at key determinants of success. In those cases, we found for successful projects that you begin with a community, and the community determines the project. We also wanted to build a platform dedicated to innovation that would allow libraries, computer software engineers, vendors, service organizations, consortia, all to innovate. So we wanted to make a platform that was very easy to support innovation. And of course, one thing that is happening in libraries everywhere is there are new and emerging workflows as the growth of electronic resources becomes so important to academic libraries. The last point is we felt that for this to be successful, and we wanted FOLIO to be successful, we do want it to be successful, we need support and hosting services to be available. And we'll talk about our strategies for each of these ideas as we go through today's session. And everybody can please mute their microphones. That would be very appreciated. Thank you. So first of all, FOLIO is the first new library services platform that has been developed in 10 years. When we think about the pace of change in libraries and in computer software, it's amazing that the next newest system is over 10 years old. So it's really time for a new, fresh way to look at automating our libraries. FOLIO integrates print and electronic resource management workflows wherever possible, and we will show this as we go through the session. Of course, we need to be able to support traditional automated system functionality. But we also want to be able to include choice for applications from third-party providers. That might be different reporting options, archival solutions, preservation, institutional repositories. All that can be plugged into FOLIO. To accommodate this, FOLIO is built on a modern architecture. It's called microservices. Microservices allows apps, just like the apps we have on a smartphone, to be easily added and updated and replaced. So that ensures continuous innovation. And we want FOLIO to be a system that keeps on being new and improved by being able to add new apps over time. The FOLIO functionality is designed by a group of academic librarians. So they're key stakeholders in the FOLIO project, as is EBSCO and other community members. So what we will discuss today in terms of how FOLIO is structured to support new and emerging workflows, those are the workflows that are coming from the thoughts of academic librarians around the world. EBSCO is providing hosting services for FOLIO, and this was very important that it was felt that a large service organization would come out and be able to support FOLIO right from the start. So EBSCO provides service, hosting, and support. In addition, we also certify partners that we work with around the world. So we will talk about the partner strategy as this evolves. We use Amazon Web Services for world-class hosting. And what we call EBSCO FOLIO is what we would call a hardened version of the community code. And what hardening the community code means is to make sure that it has the necessary security protocols and procedures in place to protect your data in a hosted environment. So specifically, we support things like the GDPR standard, which is an important patron privacy standard out of the European Union. Our goal is that libraries can enjoy the benefits of open source without hiring technical staff and without worrying about support. Of course, for those libraries who do have developers on staff, you can get under the hood of the software and you can develop applications. Then, in addition, we have integrations for discovery, serials, book ordering, knowledge base, reports, analytics, all of sorts of additional applications that can complete your folio solution. If we are working with local partners, there are several reasons that we want to do that. First of all, we believe the demand for folio will exceed what any one supplier will be able to provide in terms of services, data migration, training, and implementation of the system. But our goal is that we can have primary support in your local language and time zone right from the beginning. A local partner will coordinate secondary support with EBSCO as necessary and provide local integration services. So we work with a number of partners right now, and we certify partners to ensure best practices. So this is the list of EBSCO partners. I know you're probably looking at the map and saying there's no partner in India. Well, we are certainly interested in advancing our partner program to organizations in India who can help us with the deployment and support of folio in your region. But as you can see, we are very active in working with the partner project, and this will allow us to more easily deploy folio worldwide right from the start. Let's talk a little bit about which libraries are going to be using folio and how the community operates. First of all, the folio community is organized under an organization called the Open Library Foundation. That is a not-for-profit organization that manages or supports multiple open source projects. So in addition to folio, the Open Library Foundation supports Reshare, which is a resource sharing solution that is built on the folio platform, GoKB, which is an open source knowledge base, Open Library Environment, a group of academic libraries in Europe and North America who had built an open source library system called OLE, and ViewFind, which is an open source discovery platform. For those who are interested, all folio meetings, discussions, decisions are open and transparent and available to everyone. We will give you some links that you can use to register, and access the FOLIO websites. There are learning opportunities, there are conferences. We have what is called the World Open Library Foundation Conference, or we call it WolfCon. WolfCon has had 2 meetings so far, one in 2018, one in 2020. Those 2 meetings have both been in the US. The third or next meeting is scheduled to be held in March 2021 in Hamburg, Germany. So these are international meetings. And since the FOLIO community operates in a largely virtual space, we have developers and libraries participating from all over the world. The WolfCon meetings allow the FOLIO community to meet in person, which is so important, to have product owners, librarians who help design requirements, software developers, all be able to see each other face to face, and it's awesome. So our last meeting had about 200 attendees, and it is growing from there. In addition, we have an EBSCO user group for academic libraries, which also has a separate meeting track that focuses on the FOLIO library management system. As we talked about, FOLIO is a global community. Here are a few of the libraries that are participating from the United States, significant institutions for the project, including the roadmap for software deliverables. There is a technical council, and the technical council helps to define the technical direction, best practices, onboarding, and technical standards. I'm a librarian, so the part that really interests me are the special interest groups. And the special interest groups are subject matter experts or domain experts. There are 14 different SIGs, or special interest groups, that help determine the requirements for the particular parts of the FOLIO application. So if you are interested in metadata management or resource access or electronic resource management, these are all special interest groups that meet regularly, usually once a week, and help to determine the direction of the project. Now, the special interest groups also have a product owner that is embedded with that group. And so the product owner represents the product management side of the organization. So a librarian might say, I want the software to do a specific function. I want it to load an electronic invoice from an acquisitions storefront into my FOLIO system. The product owner will take that large user story and divide it into bite-sized software development pieces. There may be a piece that requires user interface. There may be a piece that requires a new API. And there may be some work that needs to be done on the back end of FOLIO to handle new data elements. So the product owner is really giving the instructions to the development groups. And the development group, which is, there are about 12 different development teams currently working on FOLIO from around the world. And those product owners work very closely with the development team to develop the software and translate the librarian requirements into the actual code that gets delivered and tested and used by libraries. So all of this is public information. If you would like to begin looking at Folio, please start at folio.org. You can register there, and you can obtain permission to look at the wiki, which is where the special interest groups and the real heart of much of the decision-making takes place. We have issues. If you're a developer, we have the dev.folio.org. All of the Folio software is open source. It is released under Apache 2 license, freely available to everyone, and it is available on GitHub. So github.com/folio.org. In addition, if you would like to see videos and trainings and other pieces of information, you can visit the Open Library Foundation on YouTube, and there are many Folio videos that are available. One of the very interesting things that is shown in the Open Library Foundation videos is that once a month, there is what we call a sprint review. So the sprint review takes a look at the newest software that has been developed, and each of the software development teams demonstrate their new software. So it's very exciting, and you can see what is going on with the project almost in real time. And then you can learn more about EBSCO Folio as well, our particular suite of services at ebsco.com. Well, we promised that Folio would be a system that was built to support innovation. So let's quantify that and specify some of the ways that we think Folio innovates to grow into the future. So first of all, Folio is built on a platform. So the platform doesn't know very much about libraries. It really is a way to set up software in a cloud hosting environment. And we can work with it in that way. So we believe very strongly in the idea of supported open source. And that is both through us and through our partners. It is an open platform with open documented APIs. We talked earlier about this as a hardened version of community software with extra security standards put in place to protect your data. Folio is built very strongly around the idea of choice. And so we want to combine electronic and physical resource management. We'll discuss that shortly. And when we were sitting in a room with a whiteboard saying, if we could start building a new system now, what would we do? We decided that we wanted to build a system that moved beyond MARC 21 as a metadata standard. We wanted to be able to accommodate multiple types of metadata to create larger groupings of data to improve assessment and analytics for libraries. So we're going to talk a little bit about metadata. You have a choice of apps which will allow you a customized workflow to create your own experience. This is very unique. Most cloud-based library systems are one size fits all. Folio allows each library within, when using the system, to be able to select the type of apps they want to use for their library system. Then, since everything is open, we can easily integrate with local and campus services. So why do we use microservices? Well, we did this specifically at the beginning. We did it so we could distribute the development process around the world. We could encourage vendors and development organizations to all develop folio software at the same time without being in the same place. So we have different organizations who contribute applications based on their expertise. Most library systems now are what we would call monolithic. So the Koha system, for example, is an example of an integrated library system with many dependencies. So Folio uses small, lightweight apps that communicate through an API gateway. So it makes these apps easy to add, remove, or update without updating everything within the Folio system. So it makes easier update and faster development. And then this leads to changes in workflows. So one of the areas of the system that is unique among many libraries is acquisitions. And so, for instance, Chalmers University, our first library that went live, uses Folio acquisitions to reflect the fact that they have placed an order for items, so those on-order materials can be displayed in their discovery solution. But they do their accounting and financial work in their campus accounting system. So they don't need to use the finance apps within Folio. Missouri State University, our library that just came live, they can use the financial apps as well as the other acquisition functionality. So each library can customize that workflow to your benefit. Think of Folio as kind of an operating system, almost like your smartphone. The smartphone comes delivered with a number of apps. Folio gets delivered with a number of apps. Cataloging or circulation or ERM or reports, for instance. However, some libraries in the community may have different philosophies about how to use some of these applications. So for example, in the Folio community, we have multiple ways of doing ERM. There are libraries in Europe, as part of, especially in Germany, that have chosen to use GoKB, the open source knowledge base, as their knowledge base of record in Folio. So they, in essence, have a different type of ERM application than some of our other installations. Those other installations use a very tight connection with the EBSCO knowledge base, which allows real-time transactions to flow back and forth from the EBSCO knowledge base into Folio. Another way of looking at this is reporting. So there may be different philosophies about reporting. We have an approach which is called EBSCO Analytics, which uses Tableau to graphically display library reports and other assessment and analytics. In addition, the Folio community has something called the Library Data Platform, which is a data warehouse of Folio information, and you can write reports from the what is called the LDP. So there can be many different approaches to how libraries implement Folio. And then there can be entirely new applications. For instance, we have a digital preservation application that can use a Folio front end to enter data into a preservation system. So this is the promise of an extensible open platform. Here's another way to look at it. If we were developing a new software project, what we would probably do is we would look for a platform. The platform consists of a couple of things. It consists of a user interface toolkit, because keep in mind, FOLIO is being developed by software agencies all around the world. But we want FOLIO to look the same for everyone. We want it to look like it was developed in one place. So we have a user interface toolkit that we call Stripes internally. That's our name. And that gives the guidance to the developers so the software looks consistent. We use React, which is based in open source tool based on Facebook user interface. So that provides us with responsive design, easy localization as we move FOLIO into multiple language sets and displays. The API gateway is called Okapi internally. That's just what the developers call it. But all the communications in FOLIO happen through the API gateway. And down at the system layer, that's where you set up tenants, configure tenants, and ultimately make your decision regarding data storage and logging of transactions and so forth. On top of that, in the gold or yellow section, we have core FOLIO applications, things like circulation, metadata management, reports, users, acquisitions, and so on. Then plugged in blue would be types of applications that the library would choose for things like discovery or your patron access, your OPAC, union catalog or resource sharing, archives, digital preservation, or repositories. What I'm going to do is break out one section, that is the acquisition section, to show the nature of the microservices architecture. So if we look at acquisitions, we'll see acquisitions isn't a module, it is a collection of smaller applications, including orders, organizations, which is what we call vendors in FOLIO. We call it organizations because there are types of bodies that you have relationships with that could be consortia or purchasing groups that are not in fact vendors, but you still want to track their contact information and use them within the FOLIO system. We have finance apps for managing funds, invoices, and then we have data import for things like loading in approval information, electronic invoices, transfers from automated storefronts, and we have reports. So a group of apps that can plug into your acquisitions system. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to change from acquisitions to resource management, ERM. So you'll see a couple of things here. Resource management uses many of the same apps and workflows as acquisitions. They share a lot of functionality. You might place an order for a new electronic resource. You might process an invoice. You might use fund accounting for your payments for electronic resources and pay those various vendors and organizations. So those apps can be shared within the context of a physical workflow for ordering book or serial material, or ordering electronic resource material. But in addition, there are now some new apps in the dark font that represent more specific applications for electronic resource management, which is where do you store your licenses? How do you manage electronic holdings? So that is up to date, not only in your FOLIO system, but then transferred through to your discovery and link resolver and your agreements. So you can see these apps are reusable in multiple domains within your FOLIO system. So this level of flexibility is awesome. And so as part of this architecture, there are real benefits to how librarians can implement and deploy FOLIO to achieve the best use in your library. Now, another way that we innovate is, as I mentioned, when there was a small group of us, there were about 5 of us in a room, talking about what would a new library services platform look like. We began to talk about moving beyond MARC communications format, which is what most library systems are currently based on. And we thought, well, MARC has been very good for 50 years as a communication mechanism, and it's good for storing text. We wanted to build an environment that allowed us to move into the future and be able to store relationships. So as we move into linked data, semantic web, and future-looking technologies, that we already had the system format and schema in place. So we use an internal data storage that is based on BibFrame2 and Dublin Core. This allows us to integrate metadata from multiple sources. Of course, most or all of you now in your current library system have an inventory with MARC metadata. FOLIO can certainly accept that and work with your MARC metadata. However, maybe you have different types of source metadata that you would like to integrate. This could be Dublin Core, it could be EAD, JSON, or other types of metadata. So we can transform that metadata into FOLIO's internal storage format. This will reduce silos. Now you can write software that accesses this one larger group of metadata, and you can create analytics and assessment that work against larger categories of metadata rather than writing separate applications to assess each type of source information. So I'm just going to take us through a little bit of this is a simple display. We have much more comprehensive drawings of how the metadata standard is within FOLIO. This is what we call FOLIO Inventory. FOLIO Inventory has instance, holdings, and items. So this is based very much on a BibFrame-like approach. The instance describes the title, the contributors, the attributes of something. The holdings is where is something located? Is it located in the library at a particular campus or branch? Or is it an electronic resource? And do we connect to it via a link or a URI or URL? And then we have items, and the items would be including the physical status of the material, the availability, the barcode, the specific shelving location, those sorts of information. So what we do is, right now, you have source metadata, MARC records, either from your local system, from a vendor, from a national library, from OCLC, whatever your source of MARC records are. Using the data import process, we transform your MARC metadata or your inventory data from your existing library management system into the FOLIO inventory record. What we also do is we save the MARC source record. You may need that source record. You may want it for discovery, for more complete metadata for searching. You may contribute records to a union catalog and that need that MARC metadata. you may want to participate in a resource sharing network. So there can be many applications for why you might want that MARC record. So we keep your MARC metadata as we load it and transform it. You can edit the MARC metadata using a software application we wrote, which is called QuickMark, which is accessible directly from FOLIO. In addition, there is a more full-featured cataloging program, which is called MARC-CAT. That is designed to interface with both MARC bibliographic and authority records, and it's a more full-featured piece of software. In addition, you could use another editor. I use MARC-Edit sometimes. That provides a very easy-to-use tool for making batch changes or editing for records. So any type of MARC editor you want, when you edit on the MARC editor, that change is committed back into the source record and is updated within FOLIO Inventory. If you have non-MARC metadata that is located in the FOLIO Inventory app, our inventory application can edit that metadata and it updates it directly. In addition, you can also update your holdings and items from the FOLIO Inventory application. If you have non-MARC metadata, there's a whole separate set of programs that is called data export. And data export will convert non-MARC records to MARC format records so they can be shared out via the source record to your external system, wherever that may be. So a quick look at how the benefits of FOLIO Inventory, how using an agnostic metadata standard helps us work with many types of systems. Here's a quick example of a screenshot of what is called FOLIO QuickMark. Up at the top in the left-hand corner, you will see Inventory. That is the app that we are currently using in the FOLIO application. FOLIO uses a multi-panel display. The left-hand side, the left-hand side is where searching occurs, and the searching will depend on the type of information you're looking for, whether you're looking for information in an instance or a holdings or an item. It will also have, on the lower left-hand section, your filters. So you have very powerful searching and filtering of search results. The middle panel will be your browsing display. So those are the records that met or matched your search inquiry. When you select one of the records in the middle panel, you come up to the editing or full record view. So this is the instance, holdings, and item for a record called determinants of health. When we look at this in the upper right-hand corner, you'll see we have the options to edit the record. We can duplicate or copy the record. We can view the source MARC metadata, or we can edit in QuickMark. So the QuickMark allows you a very quick, lightweight MARC editor that allows you to add fields, delete fields, edit fields in the record and make that quick change to your MARC metadata. You can see at the lower right hand, after you're done, you save and close and you're returned directly back into your inventory application within FOLIO. Once that's done, we get a feedback message from FOLIO that your MARC source record was successfully updated. So just an example of how FOLIO is moving beyond to integrate with this different type of metadata service, but allow you at the same time quick and easy access to the underlying MARC metadata. A little bit about where we are in software releases. So our community software is released quarterly, and we have a named release. Several years ago, there was the decision made that FOLIO would have as our kind of internal mascot, we'd use a bee, like a honey bee, as the mascot. So then, when it came time to thinking about how do we represent the names of our releases, we thought, well, bees like flowers. So why don't we name our software releases after flowers instead of naming them after dates, which is boring. So we named them after flowers. So the Aster release, Bellis, Clover, Daisy, and so on. And since we are librarians, we sort or file our releases alphabetically by flower name. So that's the background story there. Right now, the release that we are on is Fame Flower. That is our release that is enabling many libraries to go live on the FOLIO software. We add about 70 new releases each quarter, and we update the release notes so you can see what exactly is being done, and the decision-making about how things are prioritized is all part of the community. Goldenrod is our next release coming up shortly. I'll touch on the idea of services quickly. EBSCO has a long tradition of service to libraries, as well as a commitment to open source software. So we are partners with and we work very closely with open source projects like Koha, Viewfind, Blacklight, Coral, Evergreen, Samvera, and Sword. So our interest in open source did not just begin with FOLIO, but it also is part of what we do at EBSCO. We have proven record in security and privacy. We have a huge number of librarians like myself. And one of the things that is very important, we don't think about it very much, but it is a family-owned company, which as library companies are shrinking and getting bigger, that it is important that we have a family-owned organization that goes on for a long time. We provide implementation services, readiness assessment, implementation of ERM or full FOLIO, integrations with third-party software and applications. So in a campus environment, this could be a student information system, campus accounting system, identity management, self-check machines, automated warehouse machines. So many integrations occur within the life cycle of the system. Hosting, we have an entire hosting and platform team for high availability, high performance, backups, and managing software updates. Then we provide global and local support using EBSCO and our partners. Our services team, we have implementation consultants, expert librarians who know how to migrate data, and LSEs, library service engineers, who are basically like an addition to your system librarian team. They're experts in scripting, for connecting to various resources, and our implementation consultants are experts at workflow analysis, change management, readiness assessment, all of the tools to make your move from your current library system to FOLIO an excellent experience. Here's a brief template for how we would go about this. And we really spend a lot of time at the front end working with your library on how to analyze your existing environment, your existing workflows, and how those will fit into FOLIO or how they could possibly be changed to take advantage of new ways of doing things. One thing that we know about library automation is when you get a new system, many times there are some workarounds that you have to do to fit in how the software works. Over time, those workarounds become actually your workflows, and you end up taking extra steps to do things that is just because of the software. In FOLIO, we want you to be able to work efficiently, so we try to invest some of that time up front to analyze your workflows within the organization. All of the various processes, data migration, testing, integrations, and training before we ultimately go live. How long this takes is up to your library. For instance, with Missouri State University, I believe it took about 7 months, but that is largely at the control of the library, how quickly you would like to move. Many libraries are choosing to implement ERM as a first step towards FOLIO because many times ERM is an application that is not fully developed in an older legacy system. So that is one way to begin using FOLIO and automate the electronic part of your application stack. So this would automate your holdings, licenses, agreements, usage information. It can include orders and renewals in organizations. That will also feed into your link resolver and discovery. So it can really be a kind of a stack of electronic applications. Other libraries implement full FOLIO as a way to replace their existing library management system. So full FOLIO includes, of course, EBSCO ERM, plus circulation and data import and analytics and finance and all those sorts of metadata management, circulation, acquisitions, components that you would expect in a library management system. So normally I would go live to show this, but since we are in a very time-sensitive situation, I don't want to jump around between systems. I will just take you through kind of a guided set of some screenshots, but we can definitely show this live. We do very extensive online presentations. So if we take a look at what a life cycle of a physical book would be, ordering, receiving, cataloging, and check it out, let's walk through that process in FOLIO. Here, we're beginning with an automated acquisition storefront. In this case, Gobi, but it could be another type of automated acquisition storefront where you make selection decisions. We download the record from, in this case, Gobi. FOLIO gives us feedback indicating that this order has been entered into the system, and it does that by giving us a FOLIO PO number that is communicated back to the acquisition storefront in real time based on an order integration API. So we know that order is live within FOLIO. So now if we transfer to FOLIO, we can see the purchase order where we have mapped acquisitions information into the purchase order. It could be the fund information, the unit price, the number of copies, the locations for which it's been ordered, whether it's a single order or a renewable order, all of those types of information here. So you can see all of that information within your FOLIO Orders app. And we can also receive the item within FOLIO. Of course, we can pay for the item using invoices, either a physical invoice entered manually or an electronic invoice using Edifact. We can receive a physical item, we can attach a barcode and create an item record in the receiving process. So once that item is added, we have our instance, our holdings, and our item. Remember, our three types of records that work together in FOLIO. That item is very easy to circulate. We scan the barcode for a user, scan the barcode for the item, or we use a self-check machine to access that information. So here's a checkout screen where it gives us information such as the barcode, the title, the loan policy, the due date, the due time. And then at the end where you see those three dots, those ellipses, that allows us to see additional information to access the item record. And if you have privileges, update the item record, see the loan policy, or change the due date. So very easy to move between different types of information. If we look at our user record on the left-hand side of the screen, you can see where it indicates there are 2 open loans, then there are fees and fines and open requests. For any of those, we can click. Those are links, and we can see the open loans. We can renew or work with those records, or we can collect money or waive fines if you're authorized, or place or cancel requests and holds. So very easy to go through a physical life cycle of an item there. I'm going to do the same thing now. We'll talk a little bit about multiple libraries. So FOLIO was built from the beginning to be consortia friendly. So we know many libraries share a system together in a consortial arrangement, but most library management systems were built originally for single libraries, then somehow had to develop the functionality for consortia. Sometimes it's better or worse depending on the library automation system. So here's an indication for our location where you can see we can have on the right-hand side multiple institutions that share the FOLIO software in a single environment. Then within the institution, we can have one or more campuses. Within a campus, we can have one or more libraries. Then within the library, we can have multiple locations. So this allows a very seamless way to set up multiple libraries that share a single FOLIO system. One of our beta partners is the 5 Colleges Consortium, which is 5 separate colleges and universities who will share a system on FOLIO. So we have been working with consortia since the very first days of our beta partnerships. Going quickly into EBSCO ERM, which is powered by the EBSCO knowledge base or your local knowledge base. Here's an example in eHoldings where you can add, remove holdings, create custom packages of eResources. These are uploaded into your knowledge base on your discovery layer in real time. So Full Text Finder, the EBSCO knowledge base for discovery, is updated immediately after we add or remove holdings here within the knowledge base and eHoldings app of FOLIO. We have agreements, and agreements can contain like one or more licenses that describe how resources are managed, ordered, and accessed. So you can set up and manage your vendor licenses. In the middle section here where it says drag and drop to upload or choose files, that's just a handy area where you can actually keep the source documents of your agreements with your electronic resource providers. So those can be maintained online if you wish, or you can maintain the URL, and these can of course be password controlled so they can be protected for viewing by only authorized staff. So ERM workflows can manage the entire life cycle from evaluation to discovery. The EBSCO knowledge base is one of the large knowledge bases in the library industry. We have about 11,000 packages and databases and about 3 billion holdings. We have a staff of approximately 30 trained staff members who maintain this knowledge base on a daily basis to keep it accurate for our libraries. Since packages change literally every day. They add titles, they remove titles, they create new packages. So some of the features of EBSCO ERM. An important component there is we also maintain usage data. The important area there is you can, combining that with FOLIO acquisitions information, is you can get cost per use information. So EBSCO ERM automatically updated if you use any EBSCO services such as EBSCOnet or eBooks through Gobi, and using HLM, which is Holdings and Link Management. So we have bidirectional APIs within various EBSCO services to keep FOLIO up to date, as well as your EBSCO accounts up to date. You can start anytime with ERM first, or you can opt for full FOLIO and replace your current library system. I'm going to end this presentation. Thank you so much for your attendance. We should have time for a couple of questions, and I'll ask one of my colleagues to see if there are some questions from the participants. I would ask you to please consider joining the community. folio.org is the place. And please get in touch if there is more information you desire or to see a system demonstration. Thank you. Are there any questions that we can manage here?
Thank you very much, Neil.
Thank you. Any questions, or should I just go
Yes.
through the...
Yes, I have a bunch of questions, and we'll take them one by one, and in the permitted time, whatever best we can do, we will take most questions which are possible to be answered. I'll start with the first one, Neil. Just 1 second. Okay, here we go. So the first is, how is the AWS hosting facility planned with FOLIO?
How does AWS hosting work with FOLIO?
That's right.
Okay, what we have decided to do is we have created a special team inside of EBSCO that is hosting and platform support. So we have optimized FOLIO software to run within the AWS environment, and we are able to take advantage of AWS regions. So a region of hosting allows us to keep your data separate and also keep it contained within a geographic location. As many libraries in parts of the world would like to have their data kept locally close to them, not necessarily stored in the United States. So we have optimized our services for AWS, but FOLIO has been built from the start so it can be deployed in multiple ways. A library can load it locally, maintain it locally, or EBSCO can maintain it in the cloud.
Thanks, Neil. Thank you. The next question is, what are the various models for implementing FOLIO in our library? Is it completely free if we take it ourselves, or what are the annual charges?
Yes. So the FOLIO software is free. There are no licensing charges. If you use EBSCO as a service provider, there are costs for us to provide services. For instance, if we need to host on Amazon Web Services, that is a cost that EBSCO has to pay, and thus we would have to pay that. The library would need to pay for hosting services. In addition, if we are implementing the system, there would be a cost for implementing or product support. So we'd be happy to discuss that with the library. In addition, FOLIO is completely open source. It can be downloaded on GitHub, from GitHub, and we do have some libraries who are desiring to be self-supporting. So if you choose to download the software, install FOLIO on your local server, and be self-supporting either by your own library or with a group of libraries, there would be no cost at all. So it all depends on the service offerings that you select.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you, Neil. I'll go to the next question. Please highlight on LMS interoperability features, data exchange, operating system, database structure. There are a lot of things plugged into one question, SIP to compatibility, etc.
Yes. So FOLIO, the first thing that was ever developed for FOLIO was the platform. And so the decision was made that this should be a very open platform and be capable of easily integrating with multiple services. So our approach as a community is when we encounter a new service that we should integrate with, is to do that via a new API, and that new API then becomes part of the community code. So we are easily able to integrate with services such as student information system, campus accounting system, self-check systems, resource sharing systems, identity management using SAML for single sign-on and Shibboleth. So we have a wide variety of integrations now, and that will continue to grow and develop as new libraries adopt FOLIO. So their specific integrations will be supported at that time.
Right. Thanks for a clear, detailed answer on this one. Neil, I'll go to the next one. It's an interesting question.
I'm sorry, I forgot I didn't mention that the operating system and things of that sort. So
yes,
very quickly. So FOLIO, since we use this idea of the app plugging into the API gateway, an individual app can be written in the language of the choosing of the developer. You could write it in Java, you could write it in Ruby, you could write it in Perl, you could write it in PHP, whatever you want to write the app in. We have many of our apps are developed using Java, but that is not a requirement. The requirement is that you interface with the API. So that allows the developer to quickly develop in their preferred development environment. For a database, we are agnostic. We use Postgres, which is an open source SQL database, but you could use a NoSQL database or another type of data storage in a local environment, if that is what you prefer. Sorry.
Right, and that also answers another question automatically. There was one question that, as a developer, how can we contribute to FOLIO? I'm a PHP developer, so in which language the code is designed? So you've already answered that.
Thank you. What we would like, and an important aspect of FOLIO is that software from different development organizations, we wanted to look and interact the same. So please take a look at the user interface style guide, and that allows a PHP app or a Java app to look similar and behave similarly to each other, so it looks like a single system interface.
Thank you, Neil. Thank you for answering that part also. Next one is GoKB is very useful for libraries to maintain their knowledge base. Is there any open source link resolver from the FOLIO community?
I am not sure if there is one now. We certainly, if you were to, there would be nothing to that would limit a library's ability to use an open source link resolver, because all of the APIs and interactions with the knowledge base and FOLIO are open and documented, so you can easily interact with that. I'm sorry, I don't have a recommendation though.
All right. Okay. Next one is, can we integrate GoKB knowledge base API with Coral ERM?
I imagine you could. We like the FOLIO resource management is, I would say, deeply integrated with other FOLIO apps. So there is less redundant data entry. Sometimes when you use an ERM system that was developed separately, like Coral, there may be some duplicate work that is required. But GoKB, or working within the local knowledge base, should be able to feed into Coral. And EBSCO has also optimized our knowledge base to work using a bidirectional API with Coral as well.
Okay.
So maybe
thanks for answering that part.
Maybe time for one more question.
Sure. Actually, there are many more. There are many more. I'll just pick up a couple of more interesting ones. Just one second.
I appreciate all the questions.
Absolutely. And what we'll also do is the ones which are not answered, we'll definitely take answers from you and share it with the attendees because we have the email IDs for everyone.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. And maybe one or two more questions, and that would be great.
Sure, Neil. Does FOLIO architecture support high performance and high scalability? Is electronic resource management module free or paid from EBSCO? If we cannot integrate, if not, can we integrate DSpace with FOLIO?
Those are very good questions. So yes, a key part of our hosting is to make sure that this FOLIO is a multi-tenant application. So it is built for scalability and for high availability. So those are attributes that we could go through a whole separate session just on our hosting and platform support, because it's wonderful. Is FOLIO ERM free? Yes, it is available on GitHub. It can be downloaded for free. It can be run with a local knowledge base such as GoKB. Wonderful. And then we are working with several libraries in terms of DSpace integration into bringing repository records into FOLIO. There has been work going on for EAD metadata as well. And then I think we are also working with several DSpace libraries at this time. So it's on the roadmap. It is not something that I can show or demonstrate today, but the FOLIO architecture is built to be able to support that type of metadata.
Right, Neil. Thank you for answering that. I'll take the last question, though there are many more, but we'll just restrict this to the last one.
Okay.
In resource management, I think it means electronic resource management. How is the usage report generated, and if it is sushi enabled or maybe sushi compatible?
Yes. So resource management, we use that larger name, resource management, because of the unified workflows. But yes, you are correct. It does encompass electronic resource management. We have, we do have sushi harvesting that is built into FOLIO, so you can set that up for your usage reports. In addition, EBSCO can provide a usage consolidation service where we do harvesting, or the library can set up sushi harvesting directly from the FOLIO eHoldings app.
Perfect. Just one last, is a very generic question, but I think many people will be looking for an answer for this. Yes. Is the ERM module openly available?
Yes, it is. ERM is openly available on GitHub. So go to github/folio.org, and you will be able to find the code for FOLIO and for ERM. I should say that if you want to deploy FOLIO in a setting other than Amazon Web Services, that is entirely possible. And we use containers and Docker that does allow that to be done on local servers or in other hosted environments. So although we at EBSCO have chosen to use Amazon Web Service, and that is works well for us, we also want to make sure that libraries can use local hosting services or local servers to deploy FOLIO.
Thank you very much, Neil, for taking all these questions. And as always, like for FOLIO, people can log in, and who have just got introduced in this today's session, they can always go to wiki.folio.org, and read all about FOLIO, the latest developments, the interactions which is happening, and from there they can also interact with people on board on the FOLIO, who are managing FOLIO at the back end.
Yes,
so there's a lot of activity happening on FOLIO.
We'll add one more thing. On wiki.folio.org, we have several instances of FOLIO that librarians or developers can use and look at. So we have a stable environment, which has recent code, and then we have a testing environment in which you can log in and see the application, and it literally changes during the day and from day to day. There will be new software on there. So those are available on the wiki, and you can use them to become familiar with FOLIO.
Absolutely. So yes, Neil, anything else?
Thank you once again for this wonderful.
Thank you so much, Neil, to be awake at this hour in your it's I think 2:30 or 3 right now at your place. Thank you so much for taking out time to address the audience at this part of the world, and definitely for everyone from different parts of the world who are attending today. And we would like to wholeheartedly thank everyone to have attended this session. This was the first FOLIO webinar for the Indian market, and we hope to do little more advanced ones in the coming months as we go near the formal launch of FOLIO in 2021 mid.
Yes, we will look forward to that, and we will be happy at that point to do live demonstrations or talk about specific topics that are of interest to the community in India.
Absolutely. Thank you once again, Neil, for taking your time. Thanks a lot. And good night. And good day to everyone for taking your time today. Thanks a lot.
Have a nice day. Thank you.
Thank you. Goodbye.